The first time I heard the recording, I thought it was a cruel prank. A faint whisper, almost buried under the static, slid through the speaker. "They know what you did." I froze, my breath catching in my throat. It wasn't a random message. It was my name, they said after the warning. My name. No one else in the room seemed to notice, but I did. I replayed the clip 3 more times, hoping my mind had twisted the sound into something that wasn't there. But no, it was clear, too clear. That was when everything started unraveling. For weeks, our small team had been investigating a company that prided itself on innovation, but had skeletons piled high behind its glossy walls. We were chasing whispers, half-truths, and rumors. Nothing concrete. Until that recording. It came from one of their internal security systems, a feed we weren't supposed to access, one that required clearance levels far above ours. The woman who brought it to us was terrified. Olivia, a mid-level technician, had slipped into our office under the cover of night, clutching a flash drive like it was her last lifeline. Her hands trembled as she placed it on the desk. "Listen to this," she said, her voice barely holding together. At first, it was just ordinary chatter. Footsteps, shuffling papers, someone adjusting equipment. Then the whisper came, not directed at anyone in the room, not spoken into a microphone. It was like a message buried inside the system itself, bleeding through where it didn't belong. And it mentioned me. I felt the weight of the team's eyes shift toward me, silent questions hovering between us. Why me? What connection could I possibly have to this corporation? I didn't have an answer. From that moment forward, things changed. We noticed people following us. A black sedan parked across the street for hours at a time. The same man in a gray coat showing up at 2 different coffee shops we used for meetings. Emails we never wrote appeared in our drafts folder. Phones buzzed with calls from numbers that vanished when we tried to trace them. Olivia grew more paranoid by the day. She confessed that she hadn't just stumbled across the recording. She had been looking. Digging. She suspected the company had developed something far more dangerous than anyone realized, and she had proof scattered in fragments across multiple files. The recording was just one piece of the puzzle. We tried to press her for details, but every time she started explaining, she'd stop short, eyes darting to the corners of the room like invisible eyes were watching. "Not here," she whispered. "Not safe." Her fear was contagious. One evening, as we gathered in our cramped office to piece together what little evidence we had, the power flickered. The monitors glowed, then went black. When they came back online, every screen displayed the same message in stark white letters. "Leave this alone." No logo. No signature. Just the warning. That was the night we realized we were in, deeper than we thought. I couldn't sleep. Every shadow outside my window looked like a threat. Every creak of the house felt like footsteps. And in the silence of 3 a.m., when exhaustion finally dragged me toward rest, I thought I heard it again, the same voice from the recording. Faint, right by my ear. "They know what you did." Except this time, I wasn't listening to a file. I sat upright, heart pounding so hard it shook my chest. The room was empty, yet the whisper lingered in my head like smoke I couldn't clear. The next morning, Olivia didn't show up for our meeting. We called, texted, emailed. No response. By nightfall, we drove to her apartment. The door was locked, the blinds drawn. Her neighbors said they'd seen her leave the night before with a suitcase. No one had seen her since. We knew then that something had happened. 2 days later, a package arrived at our office. No return address. Inside was another flash drive. This time, there was no whisper, no warning. Just a series of documents, heavily redacted, with one phrase highlighted again and again in bold. Project Echo. The deeper we read, the more dread settled in. Echo wasn't a product. It wasn't a security system. It was something else. Something designed to manipulate perception itself. Audio that could be embedded anywhere. Recordings, phone calls, even live conversations. Altering what people heard, slipping in messages that burrowed straight into the subconscious. And somehow, they had tied my name to it. I wanted to walk away. Every instinct screamed at me to burn the documents, erase the drives, and disappear. But there was no way out now. Not after Olivia vanished. Not after the warning on the monitors. We had a responsibility. To her. To ourselves. Maybe even to everyone else who had no idea what was coming. The only question was, how much were we willing to risk to find the truth? The more we dug into Project Echo, the more it felt less like research and more like peeling back the skin of something alive, something that didn't want to be exposed. The documents hinted at experiments conducted in sealed facilities, entire rooms where volunteers swore they heard voices that weren't real. Not hallucinations, not mental breakdowns, engineered illusions, carefully planted whispers that changed behavior. Some test subjects refused to sleep after exposure. Others followed commands without realizing they were being manipulated. And one file, less redacted than the rest, described a subject by initials only, AN. My initials. I read that line again and again, my stomach tightening each time. Were they tracking me long before this? Was I part of their tests without ever knowing? Or was this just a threat designed to pull me deeper into their net? The others noticed the shift in me. They saw how my hands shook when I held the papers, how my eyes kept darting to the windows. But no one dared say what we were all thinking. We were in danger simply for knowing this. That night, our office door was forced open. Nothing was stolen, nothing broken. But on the desk where Olivia first left the flash drive, someone had placed a single item, a small, black recorder. When we pressed play, a voice filled the room. Stop, or you'll end up like her. It wasn't Olivia's voice. It wasn't anyone we recognized. But the implication was clear. We were being hunted. Fear gnawed at our resolve. One by one, my teammates began to question whether exposing this was worth their lives. 2 of them walked away completely, leaving behind their notes, their files, everything. They didn't even say goodbye. They just vanished into the night, hoping distance would save them. But I couldn't leave, because every time I closed my eyes, I saw Olivia's face the night she handed me that drive. Eyes wide, desperate, pleading. She had risked everything to give us this. If I abandoned it now, I'd be abandoning her too. So I kept going. Days blurred together in a haze of paranoia and half-slept nights. I scoured the files, piecing together fragments like a broken puzzle. And slowly, a picture emerged. Echo wasn't just about whispers. It wasn't about voices slipping into the background of recordings. It was bigger. Far bigger. It was about control. Imagine an election where every speech, every televised debate, carried subliminal messages tailored to sway millions. Imagine news broadcasts laced with whispers of obedience. Imagine entire populations being steered without ever realizing it. That's what they were building. The realization hit me like a blade across the spine. This wasn't just about me, or Olivia, or our team. It was about everyone. If Echo launched, freedom of thought itself would vanish. And then the threats escalated. One morning, as I unlocked my front door, an envelope slipped free from the frame and fell to the ground. Inside was a single photo, me, asleep in my own bed. The message written beneath in red ink. You're already ours. That was when I knew running wasn't an option. I reached out to Olivia again, desperate for any sign she was still alive. Days passed without response. Then, just when I was losing hope, a call came through from an unknown number. Don't speak, a voice hissed. It was Olivia, weak, strained, but unmistakably her. They have me. But I got away long enough to say this. There's one more file. It's hidden. Find it. It will prove everything. Don't trust anyone. And then silence. The call ended. I sat there, phone trembling in my hands, knowing she had just painted a target on herself by reaching out. But she had also lit the final spark. If there was proof strong enough to expose Echo, I had to find it. That night, I broke into the company's archives. Every nerve in my body screamed that it was suicide. Security cameras followed my every move. Shadows danced across sterile walls, and alarms seemed one breath away from erupting. But then, I found it. A single folder tucked deep within their encrypted drives. Inside was raw footage of the experiments. People sitting in empty rooms, their eyes darting wildly as unseen whispers consumed them. And then, a clip that froze my blood. Me, years ago, sitting in what looked like a doctor's office. A speaker on the table beside me. My younger self listening to a faint voice on a loop. I didn't remember it at all. They hadn't just targeted me recently. They had used me, tested me, studied me, and now they were circling back to finish what they started. I copied the files and ran. The rest is a blur. Alarms shrieking, footsteps chasing, the slam of heavy doors as I forced my way out into the night. Somehow, I escaped, but I know it won't last. Because once you hear the whispers, they never leave you. Even now, sitting here with the files hidden away, I can hear it. Faint. At the edge of my thoughts, that same voice, taunting me, reminding me that Echo isn't just an experiment. It's alive, and it's already inside us.